Marcus adjusted his crisp white apron, the faint aroma of rosemary and garlic lingering in the air as he prepared for another busy evening at his restaurant, the Magnolia Table. The bell above the door jingled sharply as a well-dressed couple walked in, their designer clothes and smug expressions announcing their presence before they even spoke. "Table for two," the woman said flatly, not bothering to look at him, her oversized sunglasses still perched on her nose despite being indoors. "Of course," Marcus replied politely, his deep voice calm and warm as he led them to a corner table near the window. He pulled out a chair for her, but she waved him off dismissively as if his touch was unworthy. The man chuckled under his breath. "Just get us some menus, all right?" he said, his tone laced with impatience. Marcus kept his smile in place as he handed them the menus and stepped back, observing quietly as they scanned the offerings. "This place looks decent, I guess," the woman murmured to her partner, loud enough for Marcus to hear. "Though I'm surprised it's still open in this part of town." The man smirked. "Yeah, it's probably run by people who don't know what fine dining really is." Marcus felt the familiar pang in his chest, but said nothing. He had learned over the years to let comments like these slide off his back, though they still stung. He approached their table again, placing a glass of water gently in front of each of them. "Can I get you started with anything?" he asked. "Do you even have truffle fries?" the woman asked skeptically. "Yes, ma'am. We source our truffles locally from an organic farm," Marcus replied, his voice steady. She snorted softly. "Fine. Bring those and a bottle of your best white wine. If you even have anything decent." Marcus gave a slight nod. "Right away." As he walked back to the kitchen, he caught the chef's eye. "Trouble?" she asked quietly. Marcus gave a small shrug and the faintest smile. "The usual. Let's just give them the experience they think they're too good for." The couple grew louder as the evening unfolded, their voices carrying across the restaurant like nails on a chalkboard. Marcus kept an eye on them from the service counter, his hands moving instinctively as he polished wine glasses and checked on other tables. He'd encountered customers like them before, those who believed expensive clothes and fat wallets gave them the right to treat others as less than human. "Excuse me, waiter," the man barked suddenly, snapping his fingers like he was summoning a dog. Marcus approached, his expression as calm as a still lake. "Yes, sir," he asked politely. "This wine, it tastes cheap. Don't you know how to store bottles properly?" the man complained, swirling his glass dramatically before setting it down with a thud. "My apologies, sir. Would you like me to bring you a different bottle?" Marcus offered. The man waved him off. "Forget it. Just bring our entrees. And tell your chef to try not to ruin them." His words were sharp, but Marcus didn't flinch. Instead, he nodded once and walked back to the kitchen, his shoulders straight and his jaw tight. Behind the swinging door, his sous chef muttered under her breath, "I can hear them all the way in here. You want me to say something?" Marcus shook his head. "No, not yet." He peeked through the small round window in the door, watching as the woman mocked the decor with an exaggerated laugh. "It's cute, I guess. Not really Michelin star quality. Probably the best this area can manage," she said, her voice dripping with condescension. Marcus' regular customers seated nearby glanced at each other in discomfort. They knew Marcus well, his calm, his kindness, his quiet dignity, and it pained them to see him treated this way. But Marcus wasn't new to this. He'd learned long ago that anger wasn't always the answer. For now, he focused on the plates in front of him, arranging the entrees with the same care he gave every dish. As he lifted the plates and stepped back into the dining room, his resolve hardened. There would come a time to speak, to show them who he really was. But it wasn't now. Not yet. Timing was everything, and Marcus had mastered the art of patience. By the time their entrees arrived, the couple's arrogance had bloomed into something uglier, an entitled cruelty that turned every word into a jab, every laugh into a sneer. The woman barely looked at the plate Marcus set before her, wrinkling her nose in disgust. "This is it," she said, her voice loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "This is your idea of fine dining? It looks like someone watched too many cooking shows and thought they could pass for a chef." The man chuckled, leaning back in his chair like a king awaiting entertainment. We should have gone downtown. They know how to run proper restaurants there. Not whatever this is. Marcus placed the second plate down with quiet precision, ignoring the heat rising in his chest. Please let me know if there's anything I can do to improve your experience, he said, his tone as smooth as the polished mahogany tables around them. The woman didn't even glance up. Yeah, try hiring a real manager next time, she muttered. Marcus straightened slowly, his eyes flickering, not with anger, but with a calm so sharp it felt like steel. Of course, he replied simply, retreating toward the kitchen. Behind him, the couple's laughter rang out, but it didn't reach him. In the kitchen, his sous chef slammed down a pan. Marcus, you've been patient enough. Why are you letting them talk to you like that? This is your restaurant. You shouldn't have to take this. Marcus leaned against the counter, his jaw tightening. They don't know it's mine, he said quietly. They assume I'm just a waiter because of how I look. Because of where they are. The busboy looked up from stacking plates, anger flashing in his eyes. So tell them. Show them who's boss. Marcus shook his head, his lips curving into a small, almost imperceptible smile. Not yet. People like that, they don't just need to be told. They need to be shown. He glanced out the kitchen window at the couple, their sneers, their careless laughter. The moment's coming. And when it does, it'll speak louder than anything I could say right now. The couple's plates were nearly empty now, though neither had uttered a single compliment about the food they had devoured. Instead, they continued their tirade, their voices dripping with mockery as they discussed their next real dinner at a downtown bistro. Let's just get the check, the woman huffed, tossing her napkin onto the table like it was beneath her. The man snapped his fingers toward Marcus, his eyes glinting with disdain. Hey, waiter, we're done here. Bring us the bill, and make it quick. We've wasted enough time in this place. Marcus approached their table, his calm presence an anchor in the storm of their arrogance. Certainly, sir, he said, retrieving a leather bill folder from his apron. He placed it gently on the table and stepped back, watching as the woman picked it up with a dramatic sigh. Her eyes scanned the numbers, and then her lips curled in scorn. Well, this is rich, she said. You've got some nerve charging these prices for whatever this was. The man smirked, tapping the table with his fingers. Yeah, I don't know how this place is even staying open. You probably think you're running some fancy establishment, huh? Marcus finally let his expression shift, just slightly. The polite mask faded into a quiet confidence that seemed to change the air around them. Actually, sir, he began, his voice low but powerful. This restaurant isn't just my workplace. It's my creation. I own the Magnolia table. Every recipe, every detail of this space, every wine on that list you mocked, I chose them. I built this from the ground up. The woman's smugness faltered, her mouth opening slightly in shock. You're the owner? She stammered, her tone caught between disbelief and embarrassment. Yes, Marcus said firmly, his eyes steady and unflinching. And while we welcome all kinds of guests here, we value respect for our staff, our craft, and our community. I hope the next time you walk into any restaurant, you'll remember that. Silence wrapped around the table, thick and suffocating. The couple's faces turned crimson as they glanced around and noticed other diners watching, some with frowns, others with quiet smiles of approval. The man tossed some bills onto the table and stood abruptly. Let's go, he muttered, his earlier bravado crumbling as they slipped out the door without another word. Marcus exhaled softly and turned toward the dining room, unaware that the guests were about to erupt in applause. As the door shut behind the couple, a heavy silence lingered in the restaurant for a brief moment, then it broke like a wave. Soft claps at first, hesitant, but growing louder as Marcus turned to head back to the kitchen. When he looked up, he saw his regulars standing at their tables, applauding with warm, knowing smiles. A woman near the bar raised her glass high and called out, "Bravo, Chef Marcus! You handled that with more grace than they deserved." The room filled with cheers and approving nods, and Marcus felt a warmth bloom in his chest that washed away the residue of the couple's cruelty. His staff peeked out from the kitchen, wide-eyed. "You didn't even raise your voice," said his sous chef softly as she joined him on the floor. "You just stood there and owned the whole room." Marcus smiled faintly, bowing his head in gratitude to the guests. Dignity speaks louder than shouting ever could, he said. The busboy grinned. Chef, they didn't just leave embarrassed. They'll never forget this place now. Marcus chuckled, the tension easing from his shoulders. The applause faded into warm murmurs as the diners returned to their meals, but the energy in the room had shifted. It wasn't just respect Marcus felt, it was admiration. And deep down, he knew this moment wasn't about revenge. It was about showing that no matter how people treated him, he'd never let them drag him down from the standards he had set for himself and his dream. Later that evening, after the last table was cleared and the soft golden lights dimmed, Marcus sat in the corner of the dining room, a cup of chamomile tea cradled in his hands. The space felt alive, not because of the earlier confrontation, but because of the laughter, conversation, and love his regular guests had poured into it tonight. His sous chef joined him quietly, sitting across from him. "You've got the patience of a saint," she said with a small smile. "I would have lost it the second they opened their mouths." Marcus shook his head. "I wasn't raised to fight fire with fire. My grandmother always said, our legacy is built in the moments we refuse to let anger change who we are. This restaurant is her legacy as much as mine." He gestured toward a black and white photo of an older woman hanging on the wall, the inspiration for many of the dishes on the menu. "She taught me to turn pain into purpose." His sous chef studied him for a moment, then nodded. "You didn't just run a restaurant tonight. You taught everyone here a lesson about respect and pride." Marcus glanced around the room and allowed himself a rare, contented smile. That's the heart of this place. Good food feeds the body, but dignity feeds the soul. The next morning, news of the incident had already spread across social media. Someone had discreetly recorded Marcus standing tall as he revealed himself to the rude couple, and the video was now going viral. Comments poured in, "This man is a class act." Chef Marcus handled them like a king. "Where is this restaurant? I'm booking a table today." Marcus scrolled through his phone briefly, then set it down, shaking his head with a small laugh. He wasn't in this for internet fame. As his staff arrived for the day, they greeted him with a new kind of energy, pride, and admiration shining in their eyes. "Looks like we're fully booked tonight, chef," the hostess said with a grin. "Everyone wants to meet the waiter-owner who put those people in their place." Marcus simply adjusted his apron and looked out at his little kingdom. "Good," he said softly. "But let's remember, no matter how busy it gets, we serve with the same heart as always. This place isn't just about the food. It's about family, respect, and community. That's why we're here." As the team dispersed to prepare for service, Marcus stood in the doorway, sunlight spilling across the polished wood floors. The Magnolia table wasn't just a restaurant anymore, it was a symbol. And Marcus, once underestimated and dismissed, had quietly become the heart that kept it beating.